Everybody loves a Street Fighter. I'm partial to Special Champion Edition on the Mega Drive myself, but we're not actually talking video games today, we're talking motorbikes. But the same rule applies. You can't go too far wrong with a good Street Fighter. You get proper sports bike feel in a package that is more at home on, well, on the streets, obviously. And while there is a V4 version of this little number, this is the latest offering from Ducati, the Streetfighter V2. There's not a huge amount to talk about with this thing, it kind of is what it is. It's the little brother to the Panigale-esque V4 and its various special edition forms. The thing is, it all comes down to what it's like to ride. So rather than spewing out some token facts and figures from the press release, let's talk about that instead. Or, I suppose, a different way of putting it...
Round 1, fight!
The funny thing about this bike is that when you're just pootling along, it kind of just feels like any other twin. In fact, this might sound a little sacrilege, but it feels a little bit like a Harley Davidson. You've got sort of this really big rumble low down in the rev range, and that you kind of forget that this thing has more power than you think it does. Yeah, it's not as powerful as the V4, but the thing is, you think that this will only rev to say 6,000 or so on, but this will go to 10 or 11 quite happily. And the thing is, if you put it down a gear and you squeeze the loud maker, it will go. And the thing is, because it will go, you've got a few different rider modes. Now I'm in road at the moment because this is the first time that I'm really riding the bike in anger. I'm not going to put it full into race. But you know, you've got ABS, you've got traction control, you've got wheelie control, but then you've also got specific settings for the wet as well. So the thing is, this is a bike that will quite happily sit at lower revs and lower speeds. But when you get the temptation to squeeze things on a little bit, get your head down, you can do. And to make things that much more confidence inspiring, the brakes are absolutely fantastic. Now, I haven't ridden this bike a whole lot, but for the little amount of time that I have been riding it, I am feeling very confident on this already. It is absolutely fantastic. I feel at home on it, I feel comfortable on it, I feel confident on it, but also it feels premium. I mean, don't forget this is a Ducati, it's meant to feel premium, and you'd hope so for the price tag as well, but it does. I mean, Ducatis of old, sometimes they've got that sort of designer quality to it, but when you get down to it, some of the electronics and so on in the past have been a little bit, they haven't been great, and you've got that sort of lairiness of Ducatis as well. This doesn't feel lairy. Yes, you've got the power and you can get the speed and you've got those really great brakes, but like I say, we're in a 30 mile an hour now. I'm pootling along and it feels, I mean, it doesn't feel any different than, say, being on a 500 Honda or something, or like I say, even, dare I say it, a Harley Davidson. You do need to remember to, you actually need to keep it in a lower gear than you think you do, because even though it's perfectly capable of handling the lower revs, because it's got that real warble low down, it feels a bit uncomfortable, so you kind of need to leave it in a lower gear, which again sort of adds to that small sports bike feel to it, because it's just trying to keep those revs up. But that's like keeping the revs up. I'm at, you know, 1,500 to 2,000 revs at the moment. It's not a lot. I have to say, these mirrors are absolutely useless. I cannot see a thing other than my own arms. I know that there's a motorbike behind me, but I have absolutely no idea where he is. And to be fair, as long as he's behind me, I don't think I really care.
You know what? I actually really loved this thing. I really struggled to find something about it to criticise. I mean, the mirrors are a bit useless, but it's nothing compared to the Panigale, and frankly, most Ducati mirrors are worthless, except maybe the Desert X and the Scrambler. Other than that, I love this thing, and can't really fault it. That is, of course, until it comes down to the bottom line, the price. There's no other way of putting this. It's 15 grand. And that's not even mentioning that there's carbon wings available for an additional 1,100, and the Akropovich exhaust system, that's another 4 grand on top of that. I mean, yes, it's a Ducati, and yes, it's considered a premium bike, but that's still a painfully steep price, especially when that's creeping into the Panigale price range. And that's just in the standard spec. Once you've added some of the extra bits, you're pushing towards the price of a Panigale V4. And yes, it is based on the Panigale, so the price isn't going to be that much of a surprise. And it's certainly a more comfortable way of getting Panigale performance, but if I was going to be buying one of these with my own money, I definitely feel the pinch. Fortunately, it's that good that you at least feel motivated to get out and ride the thing as much as possible. Put it this way, if you had the pick of the Ducati range, this would probably be the sensible pick for riding home. Well, at least for the comfort of your bum and the protection of your license anyway. It's the more practical option, at least finances aside. But this is weird because I've never really been a Ducati person, but I've ridden most of the current range now, and I've honestly loved each one. Well, maybe not the Desert X, but this thing, I mean, it's almost...
Perfect!
Well, yeah. And really, there's nothing else to say.